Hi, and welcome to another Excel demo with Rich Kerr. In this scenario, I've got a list of products and the units sold in January and February. And in column D, I want to indicate whether or not the change was a gain, a loss, or essentially no change or within a set hurdle rate. And what I've got in place is an ifs function combined with the let function. And I'll give you a quick review if you haven't used let or ifs before. What the let function lets me do, no pun intended, I can set this variable or name called change equal to this little equation, which takes the quantity of C2 minus B2, divides it by B2 to get the percent change. So I'm creating this name, and again, you might want to call it a variable. That's what we kind of do when we're programming. I have a second name or variable called hurdle, which I'm pointing that value to cell H2, which currently has the value of 20%. The nice thing about the let function is that I can now use these names in the rest of my formula. So with my ifs function, which will come right after my let function here, right? I just kind of moved it down to the second row for readability, right? If you have a really long formula in Excel, you can do Alt Enter to kind of knock it down a line, and that can make it a little bit easier when you're editing your formula. Okay, so if we go back in here, I have my let piece that starts out the formula, letting this name equal this calculation, letting this name equal this cell value. And now in my ifs formula, I'm checking to see if the change is greater than the hurdle rate. Then I want to put the value that's sitting in cell H3, which is right now the thumbs up emoji. In a previous video when we did this example, instead of having a value there, I had the word gain in that scenario. So if it was a gain, we actually would say gain, right? And that was sort of the original version of this formula. And I would say loss if the change was less than the hurdle rate. And then I would say no change if the absolute value of the change was less than or equal to the hurdle rate. So in the original version, we would have just said gain in that case, right? You can kind of see that there, and in a few cases, we'll have the word gain. So what I've changed here, though, is instead of using the word gain, loss, and no change, I'm referencing cells that contain these emojis. And so these emojis can be a really powerful way to add some different kind of visualization to your data set. And so we have the thumbs up icon for the gain, the sort of smiley face for the no change, and then the the red cat with horns for the loss. One other thing that's kind of nice about this one is you can change your hurdle rate, right? Let's say 10% is the hurdle rate. Then we have some changes there. If 5% is my hurdle rate, then this is a loss because we went down by more than 5%. But you see how that works. So how do I set this up? Well, you'll notice over here in this area where I've got these labels and these emojis, I simply do the Windows key and the period icon on my keyboard, and that opens up the insert emoji window. So you can kind of come in here and find an emoji that you would like. So maybe I want to do something different for the ones that say no change. So I'll use this woman shrugging as my icon for no change. And so now we can see that the woman shrugging is the one where there's relatively no change. Okay. So again, how did I do that? Well, again, I'm just pointing to those cells. So whatever's contained in those cells are the results. And you might notice that my thumbs up is green, my no change or shrug is blue, and my loss is red. I simply used conditional formatting here. So with my conditional formatting tool, I simply went in and said, okay, if the if the cell value is equal to whatever's in, for example, H5, that's the woman with the the shrugging, so that's the within hurdle. Then I just set the format to be blue. So I just did that for each of those three options, right? I just check for these cells if the value is equal to H5, H4, or H3, and then I set my color scheme, and that's how I did that. The other thing I did with the gain one is I added the option to quickly change the emoji. So let's say you wanted to let the user have a different emoji for gain, but maybe they're not going to remember to do Alt Windows or Windows period to get the insert emoji tool. I just added a few in the data validation tool. So if I go to data validation, you'll see I set up a list of possible emojis to use for the gain scenario. And just like any other data validation list, they're separated by commas. So I can come in here, Windows key, period, and maybe we'll find an additional emoji that we might want to use for the case when there's a gain, right? So we'll see if we can't find one that's suitable. Maybe it's this party popper icon, right? So we add that and click OK. So now I have a drop down list of possible icons to use when it's a gain. I could have done that with the loss and hurdle as well, but for now I'm just using these guys. Okay, so that's one way you might want to use emojis in your Excel files. I hope you find it useful, guys. Please come back soon for more Excel demos with Rich Kerr. Have a productive day.